morning. Got cold water, $1, ice cold.
Alright, so where are we? We're Lafayette number 1, obviously. This is one of the oldest cemeteries in New Orleans. And it is in, like I said, the Garden District. And a lot of the bed and breakfasts in New Orleans are in the Garden District. So this is a very popular cemetery with tourists. And it's also a pretty safe cemetery. So a lot of tours bring the tourists here. I would say it's probably the second most visited cemetery in the city, probably. It is very picturesque. It's very beautiful. And as I said, I heard in the news this morning that they're going to be closing this on Monday for renovations. This was the first cemetery I ever visited when I visited New Orleans. And it blew my mind. I had never seen anything like this. So it sort of captures the imagination. We're going to do our best to avoid tourists and tour groups. As I said, when I visited previously, this was the cemetery that was closest to my B&B. When I was here, there was a gentleman that was a caretaker, quote, caretaker. And he talked about exposed bones. And sure enough, while we were walking through the cemetery, especially on plots like this, we would see exposed bones sticking out of the grave. Why that is, he didn't explain. It just sort of seemed to be par for the course for a New Orleans cemetery at the time. And I will say, in the subsequent visits I've had since I've lived here, I have not seen that. And I've not really seen that in any of the other cemeteries in the city. So it's always made me kind of question what was going on when I visited that first time. The cemetery is also very famous for another reason, which I will get to here very momentarily. You've definitely seen the cemetery in films, numerous films, but probably most famously in a popular film called Interview with the Vampire. They built a mock mausoleum crypt for the scene in that film. This is a very famous family in the city. Alright, I promise we're going to go down some of these alleys. When I visited originally, right around the corner from here was Anne Rice's house. I don't know if she wrote Interview with the Vampire there, but that is where she was living when I visited. And I've always wondered if possibly this is her family's crypt. I don't know how well you can see that with the sun blaring. Let's see if we can block out some of that. So, again, I talked about that tour guide. That mock tomb was built right over here. According to him. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. It was built, let's see, I don't know if it was here, in this empty plot. But it was along this area, according to him, again. I apologize for how sunny it is. We are in the midst of a heat wave. I know that sounds strange for the south in the summer, but it's even hotter than normal. Like 10 degrees warmer than normal. So the thing about the Garden District and the cemetery in particular is this is where you would find tombs for some of the richest families and some of the oldest families in the city. Like founding members of the city. Like, again, it's not the oldest cemetery, but this is where the wealth was buried. When we leave, we'll drive down St. Charles Avenue, and you can take a quick little peek at the mansions that adorn the landscape in the Garden District. So the repairs that they're going to be doing, there's a water main or something that runs underneath the cemetery that needs repair. So there's going to be a lot of excavation. God only knows what they'll find. Okay. It is not uncommon when digging in New Orleans to find graves, especially in the oldest areas of the city. They get lost in time. And they're not found again until, unfortunately, construction happens. They're also going to be repairing tombs, and they didn't really go into detail what that looks like, but that was a troubling thing to hear, because while I'm all for the repair of tombs, there's a certain aesthetic that I am worried might be lost. But then, again, I don't know. I don't know what repairing tombs means. If I can find an article online, I will link it to this video. As I said, this is a very touristy cemetery. A lot of tours. So, it also means that you will find a lot of people, you will find people here looking to take advantage of the tourists. Can handlers, pickpockets, thieves, door pullers. These roots. Alright, let's get to the other side. So it's just a word of caution. If you are going to visit here, know that you probably will encounter people looking for handouts. You know, whatever your opinion of that is yours. It just makes sense to me. You know, if you're desperate, you go to where the tourists are, right? I'm going to pause for a sec. Okay, we're back. It's an interesting one. It's not especially a large cemetery. It's very picturesque. Hopefully it won't be closed for a very long time. It is going to be open for families that have burial plots here, so they can inter their relatives. Having lived here now for a few years, I recognize a lot of these names. It's, you know, family business names, you know, family businesses, I recognize the names. And streets. And even some of these names are like districts of the city. I especially appreciate the shade. Oh my goodness. It's 9 a.m. It feels like it's 100 degrees. I don't know if it is, but it feels like it. $18.99. $18.62. Amazing. When I think about what was going on in the country, some of these interments happened. I love these. There's a sad aspect to the fact that that's all overgrown, but it's so beautiful, in my opinion. So we just run into a torque loop, so we're going to turn around. Find a new path. I don't know if you could hear that. That tour guide was telling them about what's happening with the closure. And that they're going to be removing the magnolia trees. That's unfortunate because they're so beautiful. And they smell amazing. Maybe it's a root system? It's wreaking havoc on the sewer lines, water lines? I don't know. There's definitely a lot of people pouring it, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon. This symbol right here, I've always associated it with Oddfellows. Please let me know in the comments if it has another meaning. Just curious because there is an Oddfellows cemetery here. So, curious why he would be interred here. It's another curious thing. Some of the tombs in New Orleans, they don't have this tile work, which I think is really beautiful. You don't see it too often. Most of it's gone. Every now and again you run across it. Alright. remember this one very vividly. This door is new. This was open. Interesting. Alright, folks. I think we should wrap up. There's a lot of people in the cemetery now. So, hope you enjoyed this look at Lafayette number 1. Signing off. Have a good day.